friends, I'm your host, Ed Santos, and this is Let's Talk Holy Eucharist, the show where every week I have the privilege to sit down with one of our amazing priests or deacons, or maybe even a few surprise guests, to discuss the questions you submit on topics related to Catholicism, or maybe our diocese, or even our church practices. It is our hope that through these talks, we may be better able to grow in our faith and fellowship. So what do you say? Grab your favorite cup of coffee or tea, and let's talk Holy Eucharist. This week's guest is one of the newest deacons of the permanent diaconate and Holy Eucharist parish clergy. Although Holy Eucharist is his first assignment as an ordained deacon, his ability to connect and motivate us in strengthening our faith is beyond reproach. Please join me in welcoming Deacon Mike Bordenowski. Deacon Mike, thank you for being with me here today.
It's great to be here tonight, Ed, and it's so good to be able to talk to our parishioners in this kind of way. It's terrific, so thanks for putting this together.
I'm just grateful that you're able to find some time in your very busy schedule to join us here today.
It's a blessing, thank you.
Now, before we get into today's questions, I'd like to mention that not too long ago, while you were nearing the completion of your formation program and up to your ordination, I too was in fact a candidate for the permanent diaconate and had the privilege to witness your celebration mass for ordination. Now, unfortunately, I had to withdraw from formation due to scheduling conflicts and my secular job schedule. But I was so grateful to have been able to be present during your ordination mass and to now have you as one of our amazing deacons here at Holy Eucharist.
Amazing, that's terrific.
Now, my question for you is, how has this transition been for you, getting used to your new role in a clerical way?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, Ed, after completing 7 years of formation, it's exceeded all of my expectations, especially to be assigned by the bishop to a special place such as Holy Eucharist. I grew up just, a few blocks away in Earlton. As a little boy, I went to a Queen of Heaven church, and I went to the school there for 8 years. But to be assigned to Holy Eucharist has been really a blessing for me. The people there have been so welcoming to Debbie and I just can't say enough about how happy I am to be at Holy Eucharist, to be able to serve there, and I hope that I'm able to serve there for a very long time. It's been so special to me.
And we are definitely very happy to have you here with us.
Thank you.
So if it's okay with you, we're going to go ahead and move on to our questions from our parishioners, because I'm sure they're eager to hear the questions that we have. Okay, so the first question I have, it's really about you and how you came into the permanent diaconate. So the question is, I have heard and remember some individual calling stories of our priests and deacons. What is your calling story into the permanent diaconate?
Yeah, my story I think is an interesting one, or I hope our parishioners think it's an interesting one, but I think it is a bit unique. I wouldn't say that I was hit by a bolt of lightning to become part of the diaconate formation, but let me put it to you this way. I'll tell you in kind of a story. I knew a very ambitious man about 25 to 30 years ago. He was so driven to provide a good life for his young family, his wife and his 2 young children, that he kind of lost his way in the church. He always loved his God, he loved his faith, never stopped believing that. But at that point in time, he started to hear stories about a scandal. He wasn't getting the messaging of the liturgy during that time. All he seemed to be hearing was about scandal and financial statements and capital campaigns, kind of a money grab kind of message. So although I continue to love the Lord, love my God, and pray as well, instead of going to church every Saturday or Sunday with my wife and my 2 young children, I instead chose to only go to church twice a year. Christmas and Easter, I think they call that a creaster. So yeah. For a good while there, I turned into a creaster. I'm not proud to say that, but that's what happened in my spiritual life. Instead of going to church, I had a worldwide job with Hewlett-Packard at the time, so I was traveling around the globe on business for weeks on end. When I wasn't traveling, I participated in an over 30 baseball league because that was a passion of mine as a younger man. or I'd be playing golf with my co-workers on a Sunday. So again, I wasn't hearing, I wasn't really participating in the Mass as I should have as well. So that's another reason that I feel a little bit of guilt at this point, looking back. But the separation from the church would last a good 8 to 9 years, until one afternoon I came back from a world trip around the globe, and Debbie said, "Well, honey, this weekend, this Sunday, why don't you come to church with the kids and I?" And I thought, I think now's the time. So I'm going to, honey, I am going to go to church with the family this coming Sunday. And attending church that Sunday just changed my life forever. Now, when I went back to church that Sunday, after a long time of not going to church, I sat in my usual spot in the back pew. It's a good way to exit right after communion, or that was my thinking at the time. But I sat in the back that one Sunday, but every other Sunday weekend, subsequent weekend, I'd move up a little closer in the church. So instead of sitting in the back pew, maybe I'd sit in the middle the next time. Next time I would sit a little closer, maybe even in the front pew. And I'll never forget kind of the spiritual journey where it started to really connect with my Lord and with the clergy of that parish. It was in Houston at the time. The one time, the second Sunday, I went back to church with my family. I sat in the middle section of the church with my arms folded. So I sat there pretty much for the entire Mass with my arms folded. Again, I wasn't all the way back to the church at that point, but the preacher, the presider at the time, his name was Father John. He gave a sermon about, what you get out of church is what you put into it. And he goes, and I think he was looking straight at me at the time, even from up at the ambo. He goes, "Do you sit there like this during Mass? And do you complain that you're not getting enough out of church? Are you sitting like this in this kind of posture?" That to me sounds like somebody that's not listening to the Word, doesn't have an open heart or open mind, to being in the presence of God at church. So that was an aha moment for me, because like I said before, subsequent weekends, even I started attending daily Mass. I was so filled with the Holy Spirit. I was inspired. Mm-hmm. And I think that was just a jolt to me to hear that from the pastor, him looking at me and actually saying those words to me. So finally in 2002, so 5 or 6 years passed by, I wrote a letter to my pastor because I wanted to get more involved in the church. I didn't want to just be a Eucharistic minister. That didn't seem to be enough. I wanted to be a lector, so I was certified to be a lector. That wasn't enough. I just wanted a deeper relationship with the Lord and with the church itself. So I started thinking, and one person said, you're a pretty good lector, so why don't you consider the diaconate? I said, okay, yeah, maybe I'll find out a little bit more about that. So I found out a little bit more about it through an information night there in Houston, and there was hundreds of men, it seemed, there. So I thought to myself, all these faithful men, am I worthy to be in the diaconate? I started asking myself that. I asked Debbie that. And in a letter to the pastor at that time, Father John, I said, Father, I think I am discerning the diaconate, but am I worthy? Am I good enough? Like I said earlier in the story, I've been away from the church for 8 or 9 years. Would God forgive that? And I'll never forget, 2 weeks go by, and I was serving as a Eucharistic minister up on the altar, and Debbie was there with me at the time. Without even asking Father John, and this was during the Eucharistic prayer and distributing communion, he gave me the cup. I was the Eucharistic minister of the cup that day, and he just whispered in my ear, let's see how many words. He said, "You are good enough." Wow. He said four words to me, and those 4 words to me, they changed my life. I'm almost feeling emotional about this, but And Debbie, who was standing to the side, she said, what was that discussion all about? I said, honey, it wasn't a discussion. I was just enlightened and inspired by 4 words that Father John said to me: you are good enough.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And
it really touched my heart.
Yeah, I'm a little speechless right now, because that story is so compelling and so honest and true, and we just don't hear enough stories like that in our world today, with all the chaos and craziness that's going on in the world today. To hear something that's so humbling and so true, it's just a very endearing story to hear, and I thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, so that story of that ambitious guy was my story, and kind of my journey to the diaconate. So I hope it helps give at least some perspective on my background and how I came to be a
Absolutely.
deacon.
Remind me sometime later to tell you my story. We have a lot in common there.
Oh, I look forward to that. That's great.